To the next episode of the iPad lettering show, and today it's finally time to look at the brand new 2018 iPad Pro. I've received it just a few days ago and I managed to play with it for a few days to get a really good impression so I can tell you all about it. So now let's see what we have here. First, of course, this is ta-da, the brand new 2018 iPad Pro. And there it is in all its glory. And the new Apple Pencil as well. So one of the things you'll notice first is that the new Apple Pencil is a little bit different from the old one, but I will go through all the details and tell you exactly what the differences are. And then I will also do a comparison between the brand new iPad and some of the older ones and give you a few recommendations in case you wanted to buy a new one or in case you were thinking about upgrading. And then we have the second generation 12.9 inch iPad Pro. This is the one that I've been using up until now with the original Apple Pencil. But then I also want to compare it to the 2018 iPad, which is a bit smaller, which is this one here. This is the 9.7 inch iPad, and just to see what the differences are and then hopefully make a recommendation for you so that you know exactly which iPad that you want to buy. Now we have so many gadgets to look at, but let's start with the new iPad Pro. I'm just going to put all the other iPads and accessories to the side. This is my old iPad and the old Apple Pencil, and let's start with the new iPad. So the first thing that is very obvious is how light and how thin it is. It's a lot thinner and lighter than the previous model, which is a huge bonus already. You would have also noticed that this iPad doesn't have the home button anymore, but instead it has Face ID that allows you to log in without having to type your password, which is super cool as well. So Face ID is actually an interesting topic because I wasn't sure how well it would work, but it's very surprising how well it works. It's not like the iPhone where you really have to sit in front of the iPad to unlock the screen, but this also works at an angle, so if you're watching TV or if you have your iPad on a stand, it works equally well, which is absolutely amazing. Now, a couple of accessories that I did get when I got my iPad was, the first one was the folio case, which is just like a wrapper for the iPad. And what's really nice about this is how easily you can place the iPad inside of it. So I just place it in here and it's magnetic, so it snaps right in, so it doesn't fall out, which I'm extremely surprised about how well this works. And then you just close it like this, and then you have a nice case front and back of the iPad which protects it nicely. Now the corners are not covered, which I don't think is too much of a problem because the edges are slightly longer, so they stick out a little bit. And so far I've been carrying the iPad around for probably 3 days and there's no scratches, so I really think this works really, really well. And then of course we have the Apple Pencil, which is brand new as well. Just comparing it to the old Apple Pencil, you'll see how it's a little bit smaller. I'm not sure how visible this is, but it's actually quite a bit thinner than the original one. And this pencil also has a flat edge. The flat edge, first I was thinking, I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it or not, but so far I actually really like it. And it provides a nice grip in my finger when I write with it. And obviously the reason why there is the flat edge here is so that you can clip the pencil on top of the iPad like this. And this to me is the most amazing feature out of everything that I got. The fact that you can now put your pencil on the iPad is just fantastic. And not just that, it doesn't just stick there and look pretty, but it actually also charges the pencil at the same time. So it's not like previously when this one here, this has probably got 5% charge left, so every time I wanted to use it I had to charge it first. But with this one, not anymore. So this is super, super handy. The only thing that I will say is that If I have my iPad on a little stand like this, and then I put the pencil, I just randomly put it there, it doesn't always attach properly. So when you do that, you really need to make sure that it locks in properly. Because what happened to me, which was very sad, I actually dropped the Apple Pencil already, and it bent my tip a little bit, and it was just because it wasn't stuck on properly, so it's a little bit loose. And it fell on the ground, and it landed on the tip, and it bent the tip in a way that the pencil wasn't usable anymore. So I was very sad. And the saddest thing is that I've had this pencil here for 3 years, and this is still the very first tip, so I've never changed the tip. And then this pencil, I have it for 1 day, and poof, it happens, and I had to replace the tip. So I have a little feeling that this could also be because the weight distribution of the pencil is slightly different. Because it's a bit shorter and it's a little bit lighter, it tends to fall on the tip more easily than this one. This one actually fell off quite a few times. I haven't even noticed that it falls on the ground. I pick it up, no big deal, nothing ever happened to it. But then with this one, it just, let's see what happens. So this one has the weight kind of like this. And this one has it just a little bit further back, so that might be a reason why this one, when it falls on the ground, lands on the side, and then this one might fall on the tip. I don't know, it's just an observation, and I just need to be more careful, and that's why I'm just making sure to let you know to always make sure when you clip the pencil on the iPad, just to make sure it's in here locked safely. Alright, now I have another accessory here, and this is the keyboard. This is actually not mine. My husband uses this, but he gracefully let me use it for the review. So I just want to show you how this works as well. So let's take the iPad out of the folio and then put it into the keyboard. I'm just going to do that. So you can see now, even taking the iPad out of this case is actually not super easy. It's quite snug, and you have to use a little bit of strength to take it off, but this is the same thing. So it just snaps on, and then it goes on the keyboard and locks, and this is very nice and sturdy, and also the keys are very nice to use. So these are a lot nicer than the previous keyboard. And also, I've not used this much, but my husband assures me this is fantastic. He wasn't a big fan of the previous Apple keyboard. He actually got a third-party one that he preferred, but with this one here, he loves it. He thinks it's absolutely fantastic. And what's nice about this keyboard as well is that when you close the iPad, it creates a nice case for it. So this, you can see the magnet is actually quite strong, so this doesn't flop around too much. So you can close it, and then it's still nice and thin. So this is not much thicker than putting the folio case on, which I think is actually really, really nice as well. So we can just have a look here just to see the difference. And I'm just going to put it here so you can see. So there is not that much difference with the keyboard and then the folio case. Now, some people have asked me what happens when you close the keyboard on the iPad, what happens, and the keys, they do touch, but the iPad switches itself off automatically when you close the keyboard, so there is nothing to worry about. And then another question that someone asked was, what happens when you don't want to use the keyboard and just have the iPad flat on the table? So that works really well too. So you just fold it back, and then you have a flat surface. And then when you want to do some lettering or some painting on it, it's not a problem at all. It sits nicely on the table like this as well. Now let's see how these iPads compare in size, and the easiest way to show you is probably just placing them on top of each other. So now you can see that there is quite a significant difference in the footprint of the new iPad. And this is mainly because there's no home button now, but then even the height of the iPad is a little bit different. So there is a maybe ½ an inch difference in the height of the iPad as well. And then let's have a look at the thickness. So if we move them up here, you can see even the thickness is quite significantly different, how the new iPad is a lot thinner. And it's probably also because there's no round edge anymore. It just makes the new iPad feel a lot more solid, in my opinion. Alright, and then I've also got the 9.7 inch iPad, which is this one here, which is of course significantly smaller. So it's not really a comparison in terms of the different sizes, but this is more, you know, if you feel like this is too big for you, then you have the 9.7 inch option here as well. Now, there is of course the question which size you should go for, and I really feel it's a personal decision that you have to make. Personally, for myself, I really like the big screen. I don't think it's too big. I like it because it's a similar size to an A4 sheet of paper, and I just find it really handy to use the size. I don't find it too big. One of the things I really like is that I can hold the iPad in my arm like this. So this fits nicely between my hand and my elbow crease here. So this is really nice to hold if I'm in the car or if I'm on the airplane or anywhere where I don't have a table. I find this really nice to hold like this, and then I can use my pencil with my other hand. If I compare this to the smaller one, then you can see that it doesn't fit here, so this is just not as comfortable to hold. So for this one, I would probably just hold it in my hand like this, but then it's not as stable. So as a lettering surface, I find the smaller iPad actually not as practical as the bigger one. Now, in terms of weight, these two iPads are actually quite similar in weight, and you'll be very surprised to hear that the 9.7 inch iPad is actually not much lighter than the new third generation iPad Pro. So this is quite significantly lighter than this one. So the next thing we want to look at is the performance of the three different iPads, and I feel this is another big differentiator between the three devices, is that the third gen iPad Pro, of course, it's a lot faster than the other two. So let's just see in practice how much faster it is. So I'm just going to unlock the screen, and you can see how quickly that worked. This was Face ID identifying that it was me, and it unlocked the iPad straight away. So now let's start Procreate, and then I've prepared a canvas, the same canvas on all three devices, so we can see how fast that loads. I feel opening a canvas in Procreate, because that's something I do a lot, actually is a good indicator of the speed of the different devices. So this is a canvas here. Let's open it up, and you can see it just takes a second or so for this canvas to open. So this is very, very fast. So now let's have a look at the second gen iPad Pro. Do the same thing and see how fast it loads the same canvas. So I'm just going to unlock the screen. So this is still fast. I'm using Touch ID here, and then I'll open up Procreate. It's fast as well, and then open this canvas. And you can see it's not so much slower, but I think it's probably takes double the amount of time of opening up this canvas, because this is not a massive canvas. This is about 150 megabytes, so it's, you know, sort of a medium-sized canvas that I would use. It's not super slow, but it's noticeable that there is a difference. Now let's have a look at our little iPad here and see what happens when we open this one. So Touch ID as well opens it up pretty quickly. And then let's start Procreate, just so that we start from the same setup. So I'm going to start Procreate. This opens fast as well, but bear in mind this iPad doesn't have many canvases. So my other two iPads, they would have thousands of canvases in Procreate, and this one, because I don't use it that much, doesn't have that many. So I'm just going to tap on my watercolor canvas, and you can see this takes quite a bit longer. So this would have probably taken 4 seconds to open this canvas. The second generation iPad Pro, I would say this would have taken 2.5 seconds, and then the third generation iPad Pro was maybe a second to open the same canvas. The next thing I would like to talk about are the new Apple Pencil gestures that you can use, which is fantastic. So let's just go back to my brand new baby here, open up Procreate, and let's have a look to see what we can do with the gestures. So there is now the option to set a double tap function on the pencil, and I'm just going to show you Procreate because that's the app I use the most, and there is already an allowance to do that. So if we go to the settings and then preferences and then gesture controls, you'll see that in all of these gesture controls there is now the option to set the gesture plus Apple Pencil, and the one that I've set up is the copy and paste. So Apple Pencil double tap now will open the copy and paste menu, and the way that that works is I double tap and it brings up the copy and paste menu like that. But this is obviously your personal preference. You can set that up any way you want. Have a look at the different options that there are. This is a really nice and handy addition, although I have to say this is probably something I'm going to have to get used to a little bit, because I've been used to 3 fingers swiping down to bring up the same menu. Alright, and then the last point that I would like to bring up is the storage size of these iPads. They all have different storage sizes, and maybe I should go back in my history to explain how I ended up with the 512 gigabytes that I have on my latest iPad. My first iPad Pro was 128 gigabytes, and there was plenty of storage space at the time. That was about 3 years ago when I started with Procreate. And then of course I've been using it a lot, and then 18 months later I got my second generation iPad Pro, for which I upgraded to 256 gigabytes of storage because I've filled up the 128 gigabytes. And then the same thing happened again about 18 months later with this one here. Now this is 512 because the previous one filled up pretty much a week before I got my new one, so it was perfect timing. And now I have 512 gigabytes. Now for yourself, I think it really depends where you're at in your lettering journey, if that's what you're buying the iPad for. So if you're just starting out, you probably don't need all the storage size, although to future-proof yourself, I always recommend get the largest size that you can get. Now, in the order of priorities of how you want to make a decision about which iPad you want to buy, I recommend that the first decision you make is the screen size. So to me, that's the most important aspect. If you need to save a little bit of money by not going with the largest storage option, I feel that's a better choice than compromising on the screen size. So that's my first recommendation. And then of course, if you feel that you would prefer a smaller screen, then you could go for maybe a little bit more storage. Now, if budget is really a concern, but you still want to go for the big screen size, then I actually recommend getting one of the earlier models. Now, you've seen the difference of performance between these 3 iPads, and if you look at my Procreate 4.2 review video, that review was actually done on my first generation iPad Pro, which is 3 years old, and it still works beautifully. As you've seen, it would take a little bit longer to open a canvas, but once you've opened the canvas, the performance of Procreate is actually almost identical. So definitely, first generation iPad Pros are still really good choice, and then you've seen the second generation as well. But then of course, there is also the option of going for the little iPad here. I still think this is a very good choice. This is very affordable, entry-level iPad. It's still really good for lettering, but it's not too expensive, so that's definitely a good choice as well. They all run beautifully. There's no issues there. So it's really up to you which size and which storage that you prefer. Now, before I close my review, I would like to mention that there's also a 1 terabyte storage option, and with that one, the iPad actually comes with 6 gigabytes of RAM. All the other iPads have 4 gigabytes of RAM, but the 1 terabyte storage option has 6 gigabytes. Now, in terms of performance, I'm actually not sure how much of a difference that makes, but there is a chance that I might actually swap my iPad for one of the 1 terabyte storage options if I find out that the RAM really makes a difference. If that's the case, then I will do another review. Alright, that's it for my review. I hope this was helpful. If there's anything that you feel that I've missed and that you would like me to review as well, please leave a comment below, and I'm very happy to do another video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon.